Y'all please rise. Move your hats.
Let's pray. Father God, we appreciate this opportunity to come before you, and we appreciate this season of Thanksgiving and the blessings that we had a chance to pause on Thursday and count. And we just pray that you'll be with us over this Christmas holiday season and remind us the reason for the season. As we go into tonight's meeting, we ask, as always, your wisdom on these proceedings. We ask that you'll all give us the patience that we need to ponder through the decisions that lay before us. And we ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Joe Cronin.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Brazel. Here. Councilmember Mike Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Dave Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Hollander.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Klinghammer.
Here.
Councilmember John White.
Here.
Next, we have a public presentation. Is Scott?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I have a proclamation I want to read, and then Scott's going to tell you a little bit more about this organization, this proclamation. Whereas the Hour of Code is part of a Computer Science Education Week, which will be celebrated from December 3rd through 9th, 2018. And whereas the Hour of Code has grown since 2013 to become a global movement that has served nearly 650 million people of all ages in over 180 countries, and whereas the Hour of Code calls attention to the fact that computer science helps nurture problem-solving skills, logic, creativity, and career readiness for students, adults, and people of all ages. And whereas the Hour of Code is supported by an impressive coalition of partners, including Amazon, Facebook, Google, Khan Academy, Microsoft, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and Teach for America. And whereas there will be more than 100,000 Hour of Code 2018 events around the world this December, including those at the Missouri Job Center in St. Charles County. And whereas one of the many local organizations helping to move the needle in Metro St. Louis when it comes to specialized computer science training and connecting job seekers with rewarding high-tech careers is the Midwest Cyber Center. And whereas the Midwest Cyber Center is also partnering with the Missouri Job Center of St. Charles County on a $165,000 pilot project grant from the Missouri Division of Workforce Development to create a new cybersecurity pre-apprenticeship program in 2019. And whereas the Midwest Cyber Center will be participating in Hour of Code 2018 activities at the Missouri Job Center of St. Charles County, including the Cybersecurity Careers Workshop and the LT Career and Training Expo. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Steve Ellman, St. Charles County Executive, urge all educational institutions, businesses, governments, community groups, families, students, and citizens of all the ages to join with us in recognizing the impactful work of Midwest Cyber Center, and hereby encourage all to support and take part in the Hour of Code Week, December 3rd through 9th, 2018 in St. Charles County, Missouri. Scott, you have a few other words to say here?
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's the 4th annual Hour of Code that's being celebrated out there at the Missouri Job Center, St. Charles County. As the county executive so eloquently read, lots of things have been going on around the world to honor this specific Computer Science Week and the impact that coding is having as a language of the 21st century for workforce development. So we're pleased to not only once again be a location celebrating with various events the Hour of Code activity, but also with our partner Midwest Cyber Center, who's been doing a lot of great work in the region. We're receiving, as you approved the other month, a $165,000 grant from the state of Missouri to work with the Midwest Cyber Center on this pre-apprenticeship program. Tony Bryan has been with the organization nearly since they started. He's also a resident of St. Charles County, and we're glad that we're able to kind of wrap all of this together in terms of the partnership and the Hour of Code and the new apprenticeship opportunities that are going to be happening.
Good evening. I wasn't expecting to talk, but I do want to say, as a St. Charles County resident, I am appreciative of your support. Really proud to partner with Scott and his team. They're doing great work. We've been really fortunate to work through most of the regions and most of the WIOA boards here in the St. Louis County area, and Scott and his team stand out above the rest. So kudos to him and his team, and thank you so much for letting us be a part of it. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thanks for all you do.
Maurice.
Okay. Let's see, we also have a tip presentation.
Yes, sir.
Welcome
right.
tonight, Amanda.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm here to present the Transportation Improvement Plan for 2019 and 2021. I'm Amanda Brower, the Manager of Roads and Traffic. Let's see here. And what am I supposed to point at? There we go. Okay. First of all, our vision and mission statement. So the vision of the Transportation Improvement Plan is to provide the roadway improvements that make it easier for citizens to travel throughout the county efficiently and safely, completing all trips. This is done by funding road improvements that enhance travel throughout St. Charles County, including construction of new roads to meet the demand of new development or changes in traffic pattern, as well as enhancements to existing roads to reduce congestion or improve safety. And the mission is to effectively and efficiently utilize the sales tax to improve and enhance the system throughout the county. So this is just the road board members. They work really hard, and we appreciate their time and volunteer for the group. They're great. So the priorities of the sales tax are set by the ordinance. They are to do new arterial roadways and improvements to existing arterials, congestion mitigation and safety on non-arterial roadways, and economic development enhancement projects. So in order to assess which projects are most effective and which projects will have the most impact on the system, we've started to produce performance measures and to kind of get a baseline of what we have out there. So this first slide is a system inventory. This was provided from the city's info. We compiled all of the cities together for the slide, but in your tip books that you have, it has broke it down by city. So this is just kind of a baseline of what the cities have out there right now, and we'll keep adding to that and seeing what everybody adds each year, and also what the sales tax has provided to add to each city's overall number. And then we have pavement conditions. So this is based on 2014 data, which we will be doing again in 2019. So next year I'll have new data to share with you guys. But here you can see that the residential roadways are in pretty good condition. We're setting a goal of 77% in good, 20% in average, and 3% that could possibly be poor. This is residential roads, so they're not high traffic. You'll see that the cities are really meeting those goals well, and County Highway is doing just great with that goal. So collector roadways are kind of the bigger roads that are connecting either arterials or two collector roadways together. They should be in a little bit better condition, so the goals are 85% and 15% with none poor. And again, you'll see that both the city and County Highway are doing really well with maintaining these roadways. Arterial roadways are the biggest roadways that the cities and counties maintain, and we have a goal of 95% good, and both are doing really well with that. So only 1.5 and 0.6%, and less than a mile of poor condition arterial roadway is amazing. So we were happy with these results, and hopefully when we get the results next year, they look similar. So the next performance measure is congestion. So Gateway Greenlight is the program we have kind of focused on congestion and improvements that can be made without doing actual infrastructure improvements, but doing optimization corridors. And then we're going to do an emergency vehicle priority project in 2019, as well as we are going to do a report, a congestion report that will compare 2017 and 2018 so that we can start to look at exactly what Gateway Greenlight is doing and what improvements have been made and how that money is being used effectively throughout the county. Safety, we have crash data and a new very nice program that gives us this heat map and shows in red all of the locations of high crashes. So our goal is to decrease the total crashes and severity ratings with safety improvement projects. In the book, there's also a list of the top 10. We can actually get a list of the top 50 and try to focus on some of those intersections and see if there's any improvements we can make to decrease crashes and make our roads safer. So now on to this year's Transportation Improvement Plan. Since its inception, the half-cent sales tax has provided approximately $650 million in county funding to construct over $1.3 billion in transportation improvements. The funding available from other sources has varied over the years, so the county percentage has been as little as 48 and as much as 72, with the 10-year average of 52%. So we try to kind of maintain close to that 50% mark when we add in federal funds and city funds. The proposed 2019 TIP will provide over $27 million in county funds to construct over $46 million in improvements, around 58% county funding. This is an overview of the recommended projects. So there were 3 new road projects, which account for 34% of the county funds, 6 traffic flow or congestion projects, accounting for about 30% of the funds, 3 condition projects, which are at 21% of the funds. The other projects are scope changes for a few projects that were out there already. 2 county highway and 1 St. Charles project, so that's that funding. And then 2% study, 1% bridge, and 0.5% safety. So the total county funding, as I said, is $27 million, and the other almost $11 million in federal funds for $46.7 million in total project costs. So going down the list of projects, new roads and improvements is the first priority category. So 55% of the recommended county funding is going to that number 1 priority. There are 3 new road projects: Boshertown Road, Phase 2, and then Winsville Phase 2 and 2A were 2 separate projects. So that will make that connection from Winsville Parkway south to Interstate Drive and beyond. Then there were 3 road condition improvement projects also approved. The Gudermuth Phase 3 project, which will improve that roadway with the new interchange. Lake St. Louis Boulevard Phase 3, which is the last phase of Lake St. Louis Boulevard improvements, and Spencer Road from Willett to Taley, which will improve a road that is carrying much more traffic than it was built for. Congestion mitigation is the second priority, and that is 30% of the recommended county funding. These are the 6 projects that were recommended for that funding. These 6 projects make up $8 million in the county fund and $17 million in total project costs. So 5 of them received federal funds, which accounted for 37% of their total costs. So these projects were very well scored by the federal East-West Gateway applications. Safety, we have 0.5% of recommended funding for a low-cost safety improvement project on Youngerman Road. We hope to do more of these. This is a project that will improve the the curves along Youngerman, adding a friction surface treatment to make those safer. It's easy to do, it's low cost. We should do that in a lot of places, and we'll look for opportunities for that in the future. The bridge project is Sunbelt Bridge Road Culvert. Again, it's a $2.5 million project that received 80% federal funds. So we're throwing in $250,000 to replace that bridge. And finally, we have 2% of the recommended funding going to studies. These are the 5 studies that will assess potential roadway connections and interchange improvements to better define future projects. Route 370 at Salt River Road is an access justification report for new interchange improvements. Route 364 at Technology Drive is an interchange feasibility study. Old Highway Inn at Summers Road is looking at a connection between Inn and Summers. Or Old Highway Inn in Summers. Route 79 at Riverside Drive is looking at a alignment of Riverside Drive and some other enhancements on Route 79. And DD and Deer Road is looking at an alignment of those 2 roads and if they should be set up a little differently and change in the stop condition. So this is just a map of all of the projects that are going on right now. Additionally, all of the applications that were submitted are available on the website under roads and traffic, as well as the recommended projects and information regarding ongoing projects. We will also post the tip book that I briefly mentioned on the website. So that's available to the public for anything they would like to look at. And that is all I have. Any questions?
Yes.
You and the road board did a very good job this year. I asked the mayor of Wentzville if he was happy. He says he's ecstatic. Folks in North O'Fallon are ecstatic with improvements that are going on in North O'Fallon area. St. Paul's very happy that you looked at the intersection of Riverside and the road is Dalbo, okay, down there.
Okay.
But, so I just want to compliment you. You did a great job, and the folks in District 1 are very happy.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
One of the things that I'm asked about frequently is the new roads versus rehabbing some of the older roads. And your graph, you kind of combined new road improvements and improvements to the arteries. Do you have the breakout of how much is of the road board budget is going into rehabbing existing roads?
So it varies year by year, and it's not really rehab, it's reconstruction. So,
Right.
But this year,
That's a good point. We're not talking about just,
it's not maintenance, it's not, yeah.
it's when they need the road base dug up and start over.
Exactly.
Okay.
So this year, the funding, the county funding portion for new roads was 34%, and for condition was 21%. And those actual amounts are 9.3 million and 5.7 million. And I don't have the overall project cost, but those will vary.
Are we throwing those projects in with new roads? Because it's kind of hard to when you compare them, I'm not sure what metrics that you apply to.
It's done a little differently. It's done based on the condition of the road and then the traffic that the road has and how much the condition or how much the improvement will cost. So in the tip book, there's a scoring tab appendix that shows you exactly how all of those were scored. So, and if anybody has a different methodology they would suggest, feel free to bring it up. But they're scored based on traffic and it should be pretty evenly distributed. Right. And we compare them not against each other, but against their own category.
It is a tricky one because we don't want to reward cities for not maintaining their roads
right.
and then having the county come in and fix the roads for them. So
yeah.
it's a tough one.
Yes.
Granted that.
Which is why we're doing the pavement condition survey, so we can make sure that everything is staying up to par and we can try to keep up with it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, we talked about it this afternoon and about the condition of the city and county arterials or non-arterials or whatever. And I guess I didn't realize it then, but those numbers are from 14. Okay? which is the same year that we started providing money to MoDOT to do Phase 3 of Page and all of our other projects. So my point is, we've been spending the last 5 years, and we've talked about this amongst ourselves, we've been spending the last 5 years subsidizing MoDOT. And my position is, you know, that I don't regret anything that we've done, but I don't know how much longer we can do it without it impacting. So I'm really going to be looking forward to see what the 19 numbers show. And I hope they'll show that those other, you know, city and county roads are still in pretty good shape. That's what I hope.
Yep.
So looking forward to next year and finding out.
All right.
Does anybody
too.
else have any questions? Thank you very much, Amanda.
Thank you.
Next item, conditional use permits. First one is bill number 4657.
Bill number 4657, an ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 18-12 for a brew house to Blue Heron Polo Club LLC and Blue Heron Farm LLC property owners and Yardstick Studio LLC applicant.
I'd like to point out that the Exhibit C has been received and included in this bill.
I'd like to offer substitute bill 4657.
Offer substitute bill. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Nope.
Oh, I got to
The next
call
one is
roll on this one.
After the section after that, you need to ask, is there any discussion or amendment of the substitute a council member would
Okay.
like to offer at this time?
I'd like to offer an amendment to the substitute bill. That is taking the hours of operation back to the same as 4657. Those hours of operation, we had long and drawn-out conversations on 2 different occasions at planning and zoning level, and the homeowners in that neighborhood felt very strongly about the hours of operation being the thing that was going to impact their, between the traffic and the hours of operation, the two kind of go hand in hand, was the thing that was going to impact their neighborhood the most. At the planning and zoning level, the discussion came back around to the hours of operation being from 10 to 8 p.m. on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then staying open until 11 o'clock on Fridays and Saturdays, and then closed on Mondays. And I think the substitute bill, I gotta go back and look at that real quick here, 1 second. Changes the operation hours during the week until 10 p.m. I'm sorry, I misspoke. The original bill, 4657, has on the weekends closing at 10:30. The substitute bill keeps it open until 11 o'clock on the weekends and 10 p.m. during, essentially during the week.
The reason why we did that is because when I met with staff, I met with Ms. George and Ardita, and we were talking about some of the requests that that Steve and his group made, and they looked up all the other restrictions and all the other CUPs, and there was no other winery or AT or rural district zoning application that had those type of restrictions. So I felt that it was an unfair request. And if anybody has ever run a business, that type of business, they would know that you cannot run a business, a restaurant or a brewery or a winery with the requirements that it has to close at 8 o'clock. And not one business in this county has those restrictions. So you can't sit here and give a guy a zoning approval, but then give him all the restrictions to fail. It's just not fair. And it's about fairness. And that's why I looked at it. And we only moved it to 9 for outside music. Chances are they won't even be operating outside music during the week. And we also changed it in the substitute to allow at 11 o'clock on holidays, like it's the 4th of July, or days before holidays, like all the other wineries have. So And Mr. Balducci, he's going to come right up here right after that, and at the last meeting, and we didn't even put any restrictions, which I don't think they should have because he runs a fine business. But you're treating one person one way and another person completely different other way, and it's just not fair.
He
And
also-
that's how I see it.
He also told us that his hours were significantly less than what was allowed anyway.
But we're not restricting him, Mike. It's his choice.
Right.
It's
I'm
about
just-
freedom of choice, man, and I mean, to a degree. If it's across the board to everybody else.
Right.
Yes, Mr. Cronin.
I didn't like in the original bill the fact that it was requiring him to close on Mondays. There's no other business in this county that's required to close on Mondays. The only businesses I know that close on Monday is barbershops, and they do that by their own volition. So I think that it's not fair to make restrictions on this project any more restrictive than other similar projects in the county.
The other point, though, Mike, is it was brought up by staff that they weren't comfortable with it either. It's got to be about fairness and across the board. And if down the road something came about as being unfair or illegal, like not fair.
I'm going to ask staff if they thought that it was unfair.
That would not be our assessment. I did have, or actually, Robert of his own volition here, at the last minute today, did run through as many CUPs as he could in order to put together a chart, and he wasn't able to print copies. I think the best way of trying to show this all at once might be on the document.
Just putting that up there, when I watched the planning zoning meeting, I thought the hours they were trying to set were unreasonable too. I didn't think they should be as restrictive as what was set at the planning and zoning.
As we talked about this, which I don't know, we're talking about this whole thing. When I've talked to Steve and his group and Art and everyone else about the AT district, as I pointed out, when Mr. Bush and Mark talked about, well, yeah, the staff came up with the BRE ordinance. We said, well, we'll put all the restrictions in the AT district that they have. We put every restriction and more in there. And then Mr. Godfrey was under the impression that it was falling under the AT district. And so him and I had a discussion where, no, Mark, that's not how it's going to be. You don't get all that latitude. You don't get a theater and lodging and all that other stuff. And that's what and I'll let you talk. But I'm just pointing out that they took we put all those restrictions in the bill, but they didn't get any. You know what I mean? They didn't get the AT latitude. It didn't come back, and he was under the impression it was. You can speak to that, Mark, but
No, not at this time. We got a motion on the floor.
well, I want to make sure the motion is on the substitute. Are you making a motion for an
To
addendum?
modify the, yeah, because there's parts of the substitute that are good, and, I agree with.
Okay, so that's your motion on the time.
Motion's on the time.
Okay.
You'll need a second, really, to continue.
I'll second.
And then you can continue.
All those in
discussion.
No.
We already had discussion on it, I thought.
So do we vote on the amendment, on the time?
The amendment to the substitute?
Amendment to the
The
substitute.
amendment to the substitution.
Yes.
I'm going to ask for a roll call.
And this is for Councilman Klinghammer's amendment to the
Yes.
original
Let's be
substitution.
clear about that. What specifically is this amendment?
This amendment is to change, to put
Hours of
back to the original, go ahead, Mr. Klinghammer.
Yeah, change the condition number 4 of the substitute back to the hours of operations as outlined in the introduced bill 4657.
And what difference is that?
8 o'clock, Tuesday through Thursday, close at 8 o'clock, and 10:30 on Friday and Saturday.
And then remain closed on Mondays?
They remain closed on Mondays.
Yeah, which is what the applicant,
But what if 4th of July's on Monday?
it wasn't, I'm not going to defend their position. That's what was discussed and we laid it out as being closed on Monday.
Okay, let's call a roll.
Okay, well, please call the roll.
This is a roll call on Mr. Klinghammer's motion. Councilmember Cronin?
No.
Councilmember Brazel?
No.
Councilmember Elam?
No.
Councilmember Hammond?
No.
Councilmember Hollander? No. Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
So that fails. Back to our conditional use permit. So we got an amendment, the proposed amendment on the table right now. And is there any more questions? Substitute bill. Oh, substitute bill. Is there any other comments on that at this
Well, there were
point?
some other comments Steve talked about as far as there's stuff in there that they wanted us to put the engineering guidelines in there. And I don't, Ms. George, you want to tell me what your thoughts are on that when we had our meeting about the
Are you referring just to the
the
requirement about
wastewater,
the
the
aquifer?
water, yeah, stuff like that.
Mike can probably comment better than I can. I think the reason that we had communicated to you that if you want to put that condition in there, fine, but we don't have the staff to be able to judge whether or not that report means anything. These would usually be DNR activities, not us. So it doesn't really put us in a position to be able to enforce anything. So in that particular condition, it's sort of a lack of a protection. If the words mean something to the neighbors, sure, but otherwise there's not much we can do with that condition statement. We would not have the resources to review that report.
What she just said. So yeah, so if you're talking about for the aquifer work within that, that would be considered a commercial well, and that doesn't fall under our purview. That's a state permit. So we don't have the staff, the technical expertise to be able to review that. So it would be it'd fall on state permit as part of that overview, that review.
Yep, fall under Department of Natural Resources. And I'm sure probably the private sewage disposal system will probably also fall under the state.
That's what upon talking to Ardita, and it's just, it was advised that we shouldn't put rules, stuff in it that we have no control over. It goes to other agencies, so that was the advice I got.
Is there any more questions?
Yeah, I guess I'm going to ask a question of legal staff. Is there, because it's a CUP, is there a reason why we should or should not have public comments? I see several of the residents here from this area. Should we have their comments prior to voting on this, since it's a proposed change from what we talked about previously?
I think we've gone through this before. I mean, that this would not be for public comment tonight.
We're changing what was originally.
Everybody got their opportunity to speak at our last meeting.
They did. You're right. They did. Well, what's before us now is different than what they had a chance to speak about last time.
Well, Mike, it was the same thing. I wanted to go out and meet with everyone and go over some stuff with them, but I was advised that since the public hearing was closed, that we could not meet with them any further because all the public.
I'm asking, since this is a public meeting that's on the record, is it appropriate to do it now because a proposed substitute has been offered and is on the table?
You're looking at me, but Ardita O'Rourke is sitting a couple of rows.
Miss
behind.
Ardita.
At this point, we have a stipulation agreement. The record is closed as it concluded in the last meeting where the bill was introduced, and it is supplemented by the voting here. I do not feel that these changes were substantive enough that would generate a new set of concerns. So my advice is to not open for public.
I understand that's your opinion. I think if I lived in the neighborhood, I might think a little differently than your particular opinion.
If you want to open the public hearing on those, or to reinstate a public hearing on just those changes, you can. However, you will not be able to vote today because those changes will have to be taken into consideration, and the stipulation agreement that they submitted would have to be supplemented with that.
Yeah, I thought the rules were pretty clear on how we handle these conditional use permits, and at this point, we're ready to vote on this, and I want to call the question.
I think we're making a mistake not hearing from the public about the changes that were introduced since the last one.
What?
That's my
Seems-
opinion.
Seems like the only one that wanted to change them was you, though. So I don't know
That's what,
that's not going to change my
the
decision.
people came and participated at the meeting. They had a right to be heard then. It was, you know, what was originally proposed is different than what we're passing now. I think it makes sense, but if you guys don't, then that's fine. We can move on.
Okay, any other comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I
sir.
mean, I would just amplify, and we've been over this many, many times, and I understand Mr. Klinghammer's concern, but again, you're acting as judges here. And you've heard all the evidence, and you can make a decision now based upon everything you've heard. If it isn't exactly what one side or the other wanted, it doesn't mean that the judge is going to reopen the case. Judge is going to rule based upon everything that's been said and everything that you've heard, and that's what's different than the legislative process, which y'all are very good at, letting everybody have input anytime they want, right up to the last minute. But in this case, again, the courts have told us got to treat this like a quasi-judicial matter, which it is.
Which
Michael,
I think brings up again, Joe, I think one of the things we can agree on is that the CUP process that we're operating under now does not work for the way that we want to conduct business.
I have been saying that since we started this thing, and I hate the way this goes, and I don't like it, but we've got to listen. We pay them a salary to listen to them, and that's what they're telling us. And so I don't like it either. Otherwise, we'd have folks come up and we'd talk about it, but we're just not supposed to do that. We're instructed not to do that. Just like I wanted to go out there and meet with them, but I was instructed not to do that. So that's the rules we got to follow until we change it back the way it was.
And it's real simple. If you all aren't happy with the process, we go back to zoning districts.
Well, I know, but right now, we're stuck with what we got, and then we'll have to talk about that at another time.
Okay.
Again, you can go back to the way we used to do it, and that's your prerogative. But if you do that, the losing side has a chance to go in front of a judge and have an entirely new hearing and overturn what you've done. So if you want yours to be the final decision, the courts have said, here's how you need to do it. If you want to go back and do it the other way, then we'll probably get sued by the losing side in every case, and we'll have to go retry the whole thing in front of a judge. I mean, is that, Ardita, is that pretty much what we got here?
It's worth a conversation, but not at this time.
Well, I think down the road, that's a very serious discussion that we need to have. But obviously, right now, tonight,
Right, I agree.
we have these rules and we have to follow them.
Okay.
So at this point, you should vote on the substitute that Councilmember Brazel put out originally, to accept the
Accepting the substitute.
Yes.
So all in favor?
I would request a roll call, please.
Okay, and this is to approve Councilmember Brazel's original amended Bill 4657 with the substitute 4657.
So this ain't a vote on the bill, this is a vote on the substitute.
This is to accept your
So just say all in
substitute.
favor.
You can accept the substitute on a voice vote.
Yeah,
We don't need a roll call.
we don't need a roll call.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Now call roll.
We gotta read it one
Substitute,
more time.
okay, substitute Bill number 4657, and it's requested by Joe Brazel and Joe Cronin. An ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 18-12 for a brew house to Blue Heron Polo Club LLC and Blue Heron Farm LLC property owners and Yardstick Studio LLC applicant. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Nope.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4658.
Bill number 4658, an ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 18-13 for a brew house to Blue Heron Polo Club LLC and Blue Heron Farm LLC property owners and Yardstick Studio LLC applicant.
Make a motion for substitute bill?
Before you do that, I'd like to also announce that Exhibit C has been received, included in the bill. And go ahead.
Substitute bill 4658.
Second.
You had a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Discussion for me or who?
Yeah, if you want to go over the changes in
Oh, this one, as far as this one, it had all the stipulations that was. I'm sorry. We added a couple more. The unloading the trucks, time frame, no truck idle from 9 to 9 a.m. We added no outdoor storage. Well, it's twice, but it's clear that there's no outdoor storage and it's got to be used for, there's no public, there can only have 4 public gatherings a year, and that's simply because they were told they have to have 4 public hearings or public gatherings to make it require hit the CUP process, from what I understand. So from what I'm told and what I understand is this is just going to be used just for their personnel to test and do limited brewing, microbrewing there, like 2,000 or 3,000.
3,000 gallons.
Yeah, 3,000 gallons.
Anybody got any other comments or questions? Okay, this is for the substitute bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Substitute bill passes.
It's accepted.
gotta-
Accepted.
We have to vote on it now.
Yes, that was substitute bill.
All right, this is for final passage, substitute bill number 4658, requested by Joe Brazel and Joe Cronin, an ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 1813 for a brew house to Blue Heron Polo Club LLC and Blue Heron Farm LLC property owners and Yardstick Studio LLC applicant. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
No.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
And that bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4659.
Bill number 4659, an ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 18-14A for buildings, structures, or open spaces for conducting weddings and/or wedding receptions or other private parties to Richard K. Balducci and Carol A. Balducci property owners.
Questions, Dave?
Yep. Do we have any questions?
Is he going through the hearing process, or did he file a?
Good luck.
I'm sorry?
I said good luck. Good luck.
Does anybody know? Steve, Mike? He did sign it? So, okay, so tonight's, Well, Mr. Balducci was up here last week. He runs a fine business. He has, if you look at his CUP, we didn't really put any restrictions in there. The only question that, Robert, you were gonna check on too is he had to have the zoning on the house. We questioned was 3 to 5 acres. Are we all good there?
Yes.
Okay.
We're set.
You're good with that one? And other than that, I don't know of any questions.
I do want to point out that Exhibit C has been included in this bill also. So, yes, go
I have
ahead.
one question. There's no question Mr. Balducci runs a good operation, but Robert, this might be a fast question for you. Down the road, if he just sells this or retires from it, would that CUP be applicable to the new owner, or would the new owner have to come back for another CUP?
The CUP goes with the land, I'll call it. So a buyer, those rights would pass with the property to a new buyer. But they would still have to conform to the approved CUP and site plan.
I would suggest down the road, we get some kind of uniformity of the hours of operations for events like, for places like wedding venues and vineyards and you know, brew houses, et cetera, so that we're doing it. I know you searched all the key CUPs, but maybe we need to just come to some kind of consensus about what hours operation we would have countywide. And I realize that man does a great job, but maybe the next guy doesn't do as good a job, okay? So, makes any sense.
Any other comments, questions? Hearing none.
Bill number 4659, an ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 18-14A for buildings, structures, or open spaces for conducting weddings and/or wedding receptions or other private parties to Richard K. Balducci and Carol A. Balducci, property owners. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4660.
Bill number 4660, an ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 18-14B for a bed and breakfast residence to Richard K. Balducci and Carol A. Balducci, property owners.
I'd like to point out that Exhibit C has been included in this bill. With that, is there any discussion? Hearing none. Please
Bill number
call roll.
4660, an ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 18-14B for a bed and breakfast residence to Richard K. Balducci and Carol A. Balducci, property owners. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Okay, that concludes our the conditional use permits. Next is public comments. Do we have any speakers tonight?
We do. Arnie Deanoff.
Thank you very much, members of the County Council. Mr. Chairman, Arnie C. A.C. Deanoff, Public Advocate and Resident. The meeting minutes from the November 16th meeting where I testified, it says in opposition of Bills 4657 and 4658, that public testimony was incorrect. I was not opposed to those bills. I was opposed to and said that the conditions need work and a traffic study was putting the horse before the cart. So I ask that we make the minutes correct, and I ask that there be a motion made when you approve the meeting minutes to please correct the meeting minutes to appropriately put my testimony appropriately in the public record. For the record, the owners at number 1 Colt Drive, I spoke with them at 5:15 p.m. this evening, Dr. Ron Palmer and Dr. Holly Palmer. They're highly impacted, the closest property to this parcel. Mr. Bush and his team testified at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting and at the County Council that they had a stipulation and agreement worked out with the Palmers. That is incorrect and not the true fact. There was no contact from Billy Bush team. There was no consent given by the Palmers. They never met with any of the Bush representatives, and they still have concerns for water drilling of the aquifer, the smells downhill in the wind direction, the waste being removed in a timely fashion from the property because it is a brewery, the encroachment and the proper setbacks. And again, they never met with Mr. Bush that was testified by Mr. Bush or any of his staff. So it was incorrect public testimony. I want to correct that public testimony. Moving on to the Gateway Greenlight program that we spend a lot of money in terms of $10 million of our taxpayer dollars. It's a welfare trough, in my opinion, and it's just not working for our county. We need more and enhanced roads and a better road system for our increased population and not to spend $10 million of the public welfare trough. You as county council members have handouts just like the other department known as Democrats. And you have your hand out, both hands, who you want tax welfare to come to this county. And you're conservative Republicans, and it's just astonishing that you have your hand out constantly. And on tonight's agenda are several welfare programs that you're having. Who is actually the county collector? Michelle McBride testified. Bob Schnar and the budget director, Debbie and Tracy. Mr. Schnar, remind you, lost the county collector's position. Where's the accountability of actual and factual fiscal numbers? Lack of communication. Mr. Ellman, it's a power struggle between you and the other elected officials. We spent $126,000 for the council, $150,000 on these ladies to my left. The executive staff is $1 million for all these folks over here in terms of their salaries. And then we have a $250,000 lobbyist and $3 million in 15 department directors. So thank you very much, and I appreciate you hearing my comments.
Anyone else?
Okay, the next speaker we have is Ray Reiniger.
Hello, my name is Ray Reiniger. Hopefully this will work.
Yeah, give it a second there.
I live at 2168 South Point Prairie, right at the corner of Buckner Road and South Point Prairie, which is in Phase 2 of the David Hokel Parkway project. We have been approached by the county to purchase property for that road project. And this is our project, our property here, and you can see they're going to buy an acre and a half from us to build this road. So 2 weeks ago, on the 13th of November, we went to the open house meeting for the MoDOT study for the Route N location. And at that time, they said that, the way I understand it, the county has this realignment, which is a drastic realignment, planned for the future path of the David Hokel Parkway. And at that meeting that MoDOT put on, they said this may or may not be the location for that future path. So my question here tonight is, should the county be building this road now, because the study will not be finished for over a year to determine the final location of this road? Should the county be out here funding this completely on their own with their money? And if this is chosen as the path in the future, there's cost share money from the federal government, the way I understand it, to help with the cost of this. So the point I'm trying to make is, what the county executive's point a while ago was stretching our tax money for the roads. Should we build this now or possibly wait until this study is completed? And if it is the chosen location, there'll be cost share money for this project. And if it's not, is this really even needed? Because we've lived here since 1997, and I've yet to see a traffic congestion issue or an accident at this location, at the interchange here. So I'm asking everyone here tonight to step back and take a look at this and possibly wait on this project until the study is completed for the Highway N location, and then go from there. So I'm willing to discuss this with anybody later after the meeting tonight or in the future.
Yeah, it sounds like to me you probably need to meet with somebody.
We can talk right after the meeting.
Sure. Talk, yeah.
Thank you for your time.
4662. So
John's going to talk to you.
And then I had 4 speaker cards on the brew house. I'm not sure if they're still here, but Arthur Abram, you want to still speak? William Carrier, Christopher Wimmer, or Steve Summercamp?
I believe those are the gentlemen that left.
All of them? Okay.
Steve's still here.
Steve's here.
I won't need 3 minutes, for once. Members of the council, my point tonight is, and I think it's been mentioned by several of the members, that just like you, that you're disappointed in the CUP process, I am also disappointed in this process, and disappointed in my county government. Don't think that's because, as a citizen, I didn't get what I wanted out of the bill. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how, from the very beginning, citizens were put in a disadvantaged position. Anytime a CUP comes in front of the commission or the council, it should have to prove its worth. It should have to prove that it is worthy of going in a place that it's really not designed for. And instead, citizens were put in that position, that they had to defend themselves in everything that they stated about why they had concerns. And this particular CUP that was just passed was supported, protected, and really wasn't scrutinized, in my opinion. There weren't a lot of critical questions that were asked. There were just not a lot of information at all that was asked by members of the council or the commission. And that really disappoints me that, the details really matter in a project like that. What happens with waste and water and traffic and noise has such a big impact, and yet they were just kind of glazed over, in my opinion. And that really disappoints me. And it disappoints me that that's the way it seems that this government operates. And I would hope that there can be a change that can make an improvement to allow citizens to have maybe not the same footing, but a better footing, that people that are existing have an equal say, at least have their say heard, and that it's not automatically supported when a CUP comes in front of this board. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you.
That's it.
That's it. I'll close public comment. Does county executive have anything tonight?
No, sir.
Okay. We'll move on to consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Motion to accept.
Second.
A motion to approve and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Next is bills for final passage. Bill number 4661.
Bill number 4661, an ordinance of the County of St. Charles, Missouri, approving the preliminary plat of Dry Creek Ranch.
Any comments or questions? Yes.
I'm going to look for some guidance from Mr. Brazel on this one for District 2, because we see 3-acre developments get turned down, we see 3-acre developments get approved, and it's kind of like the hours of operation for brew houses and winery. It varies from time to time and from location to location. If that's the way they want to do things in District 2, so be it. I'll go with Joe and I'll approve this, but down the road, I would like to know a little bit why, for instance, this one is a 3-acre one that staff didn't like. They did recommend denial, and it was narrowly passed by planning and zoning. And we're kind of sort of looking like we might approve this, might be interested in approving this one. But then there's other ones that come before the board where if we come back and we say it has to be 5 acres. So I like to see consistency in government, because if you don't have consistency, then you can be accused of picking winners and losers, to use Mr. Elman's terms of a few years back. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about this. Either Robert or Mike, who is this? Which one of you
Robert
guys?
gets the short straw.
Don't fight each other to get up there.
This bill is this is for a preliminary plat.
It's for 3, it's a 9+ acres, and they want to make 3 lots out of it. But, Robert, how close is this to Winsville? Or O'Fallon, whichever one it was.
It's far enough away that it's not likely to be annexed soon. But I wanted to add that the master plan calls for rural residential future land uses on this side of the highway. And so the zoning was approved to allow 3-acre lots, which is consistent with the rural residential zoning. So county staff had recommended in favor of the zoning, but we had concerns about the plat itself, actually. That's where really our concerns lie.
Oh, this is the one with that really funky lot in there, right? That we get divided by a creek or something? Is that the one that you showed me?
Well, there's, for instance, there's one lot that I would call Z-shaped and crosses on the other side of a creek. And so the part of it, it's a 3-acre lot technically, but about 1 acre of it is on one side of the creek, and then you have this long extension, and then it goes on the other side of the creek. And so one option for sanitary sewer is you might have to pump sewage across the creek to the other side and provide your septic drain field on the other side of the creek. That's one option. But the other consideration is that they're not proposing a public or private street, instead a driveway serving these 3 lots. And the driveway would cut across one of the lots. So part of the lot would be on one side of the driveway, part of the lot would be on the other side of the driveway. And it's not something that's typically done with subdivisions.
So you're saying that this is not just an ordinary square divided up in 3 even lots, so that's what your concerns are, septic, and just that it doesn't just make a lot of sense. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, so to speak. Well, I remember you talking to me about this.
I don't know that it's unusual to run a septic lateral underneath the driveway. That's done quite often. I don't know that that's an issue on this, what he's talking about.
The only, to answer Mr. Cronin's perspective on this is, I mentioned this before, on a 3-acre lot zoning is, we sent out a survey in my district, and most people are extremely favorable to the 5-acre lots. and that was a high percentage of people expect that. However, what I've talked about before is when they're up north, like up by N off Class, that's pretty close to the line where you could be annexed in 5 years, I don't know. And what my perspective is, by throwing up 3-acre lots north, you're pretty much throwing up a dam to prevent further annexations into rural areas. So it's kind of a chess game. And that's kind of how I look at it. Like, we just passed the one on down on by Dyer Road. But then the ones that go further west, I'm opposed to 3-acre subdivisions. And most people are in my area, because they buy large lots and they say, well, if I had to buy 5 acres or 6 acres, because that's what the rules are, how come you're letting other people do 3 acres? And I get it, you know? And so the way I'm trying to hold to is 5 acres, but when it's so close, like Highway N, there's portions of Highway N that's Wentzville and O'Fallon, isn't there, Robert? I mean, so it's like on the line, you know what I'm saying, or close to the line. And so that's what our job is it's not necessarily black and white. It's to look at how the district lays. And so the farther southwest you go, the hillier and rockier it gets too, which is why we wanted to switch it to 5 acres for septic. But that area is pretty flat and it's got pretty good soils. But if you're talking about, to me, I think that it's what, you know, if someone buys a lot, if it's 3 acres and there's a creek and they gotta spend extra money to have the sewage pump to that area, then it's buyer beware, so to speak. I mean, you know, but, so I understand what you're saying, Joe, but that's my perspective. I'm trying to stop the cities from annexing down in the rural area and keep it rural and throw up a line along Highway N that's like a 3-acre dam. Is that the right thing to do? I don't know, but it kind of makes sense to me.
Well, if that's what we want to do, then we should delineate where there's 3-acre lots are acceptable and where they're not. This throwing it out there is kind of this fuzzy math of, well, they're okay in some areas, but we don't have a dotted line on a map anywhere that says, okay, from this point north, I guess, is okay to have 3-acre lots. We don't have that.
Well, I think that if the master plan's under review, is it, I mean, that would be what.
It's not been adapted yet, so.
No, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Add it to that if you want to then, so that.
So it's clear.
So it's clear.
Yes.
Just a little history, Mr. Chairman. I mean, the reason that I know I'm not sure if I asked for it, I know I supported it. But the reason we went from 3 to 5 is what was happening is we were having whole large areas kind of becoming de facto 3-acre lot areas, okay? Because under agricultural zoning, you only needed 3 acres. Now, that could be bad in 2 different ways. It could be that people were going there building 3-acre lots, and really that was the kind of area that Mr. Brazel's talking about that really should have stayed agricultural and been 5-acre lots. Or on the other hand, you know, it's an area that probably ought to be 1-acre lots, but when you talk about 1 acre now, all these people that've been there and have done 3, they come in and say, oh no, this is 3-acre because we all got 3-acre lots. So in the end, you're going to have to draw the lines you're talking about, Mr. Klinghammer. But the point is, I just, you know, you got 10 acres, and you know, as far as picking winners and losers, you got 10 acres. You can do 2 5-acre lots, you can do 3 3 1/3 acre lots, and you guys will get to decide. You can have 100 acres, and you got to make the same decision. Are you going to have higher density or lower density? So I would argue it's the same kind of picking winners and losers, only on a smaller scale.
Any other comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
On Bill number 4661, an ordinance of the County of St. Charles, Missouri, approving the preliminary plat of Dry Creek Ranch. Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
No.
Councilmember White? No. Councilmember Cronin?
No.
Councilmember Brazel?
No.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
No.
Five to 2.
Fails.
So it's 5 no and 2 yes, so fails.
Fails.
Moving on to the next bill, 4662.
Bill number 4662, An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute the CMAQ program agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission to reconfigure the intersection of Route Z at Route N to create a single intersection with traffic signal and realign Route Z to tie into the existing alignment at Buckner Road, Federal Project CMAQ 7302674, for the reimbursement of up to 80% of the eligible costs not to exceed a maximum of $1,534,000.
Any comments or questions on this bill? Hearing none, please read and call the roll.
An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute the CMAQ program agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission to reconfigure the intersection of Route Z at Route N to create a single intersection with traffic signal and realign Route Z to tie into the existing alignment at Buckner Road, Federal Project CMAQ 7302674, for the reimbursement of up to 80% of the eligible costs not to exceed a maximum of $1,534,000. Councilman,
Before we vote on this, I was talking to Cronin and I missed this. I wanted to ask a question. Is that inappropriate or what?
Regarding what?
Regarding what that gentleman was talking about, where's John? John, we were going to ask you that question.
This is a different area, but go ahead.
Isn't it a, you
So
said-
this
what
is-
you said-
I didn't say, I said, don't put words in my
This
mouth.
isn't the same.
It's not the same area? Or is
No,
it- is
yeah,
there
so
another-
this is at
Same-
Z and N.
But it's the same, isn't it the same,
He was closer to South Point Prairie and Buckner was kind of the location he's at, so it's a few miles to the west. But this is a Z and N.
so
which
Z
kind of at
and
that-
N, it all connects though, isn't it the same connection, pretty much? It's the same boulevard.
This is an area where there's a stop sign right now, and I'm told, I've not been out there at rush hour, but I'm told it backs up how far, John?
Oh, backs up to the high school. So this is the,
Long way?
yeah, long
Yeah.
way. So, this is, that intersection's at SQ. And so we've secured federal funds to make an improvement on the state route. So once again, I want to emphasize to everyone in the room that this is Route N and Route Z, two state roads.
Oh, no,
but
I know, never mind, you're right, this is good, go.
we are trying to get a temporary solution up there before, because this project, the full federal funded project, will take a couple of years, probably more like 3 years to get built, but we are trying to get a temporary solution in place to relieve the traffic congestion sooner than later. And the gentleman that spoke earlier, I'll talk to him tomorrow. I gave him my
Okay.
card.
Okay, good.
Okay, good, thank you, sorry.
Any other comments or questions on Bill 4663?
oh, and I have not called the roll on 4662.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So, Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Okay, that bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4663.
Bill number 4663, an ordinance approving the Transportation Improvement Plan for fiscal years 2019 through 2021 and corresponding intergovernmental agreements.
Any comments or questions? Hearing none, please read and call the roll.
An ordinance approving the Transportation Improvement Plan for fiscal years 2019 through 2021 and corresponding intergovernmental agreements. Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes,
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
that bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4664.
Bill number 4664, an ordinance authorizing the county executive or his designee to execute a program services contract, amendment number 01, to contract number DH1800080005 with the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services for violent death and enhanced opioid surveillance reimbursement.
Any comments or questions on this bill? Hearing none, please read and call the roll.
An ordinance authorizing the county executive or his designee to execute a program services contract, amendment number 1, to contract number DH1800080005 with the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services for violent death and enhanced opioid surveillance reimbursement. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4665.
Bill number 4665, an ordinance authorizing the county executive or his designee to execute a program services contract tracking number 46632 with the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services for opioid crisis response for an amount not to exceed $11,500.
Any comments or questions? Hearing none, please read and call the roll.
An ordinance authorizing the county executive or his designee to execute a program services contract tracking number 46632 with the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services for opioid crisis response for an amount not to exceed $11,500. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4666.
Bill number 4666, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute a professional service agreement between St. Charles County, Missouri and the United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Missouri in conjunction with the Missouri Highway Patrol as fiscal agent and Jeffrey Ogden as an independent contractor.
Any comments or questions on this bill? Hearing none, please read and call the roll.
An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute a professional service agreement between St. Charles County, Missouri and the United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Missouri in conjunction with the Missouri Highway Patrol as fiscal agent and Jeffrey Ogden as an independent contractor. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4667.
Bill number 4667, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute a professional service agreement between St. Charles County, Missouri and the United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Missouri in conjunction with the Missouri Highway Patrol as fiscal agent and Nauman Wadalawala as an independent contractor.
Any comments or questions? Hearing none, please read and call the roll.
An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute a professional service agreement between St. Charles County, Missouri and the United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Missouri in conjunction with the Missouri Highway Patrol as fiscal agent and Nauman Wadalawala as an independent contractor. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
That bill passes. Next bill, 4668.
Bill number 4668, an ordinance accepting 2 grant awards in the amount of $315,000 and amending the 2018 budget adopted by ordinance 17-113 to fund additional program participant costs and salaries in the Workforce and Business Development Fund.
Any comments or questions? Please read and call the roll.
An ordinance accepting 2 grant awards in the amount of $315,000 and amending the 2018 budget adopted by ordinance 17-113 to fund additional program participant costs and salaries in the Workforce and Business Development Fund. Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes. That bill passes. Moving on to the final bills for passage, Bill number 4669.
Bill number 4669, an ordinance amending the 2018 budget adopted as ordinance 17-113 by transferring unencumbered appropriations between line items in the general fund budget of the Department of Corrections and the budget of Regional Medical Examiner Fund.
Any questions or comments?
Chairman, please, there's a note about Exhibit B.
That the Exhibit B has been, which bill are we talking about?
That's it.
Is that it?
Yes.
That Exhibit B has some incorrect count numbers, and they now have a revised Exhibit B with the correct numbers. Anything else? Hearing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance amending the 2018 budget adopted as ordinance 17-113 by transferring unencumbered appropriations between line items in the general fund budget of the Department of Corrections and the budget of the Regional Medical Examiner Fund. Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
That bill passes. Next is miscellaneous or announcements. Do we have any announcements tonight?
I have an announcement. We have the Defiance Christmas Parade, the annual Defiance Christmas Parade this Saturday. The parade starts at noon, and actually it's built, it started with John Lacey driving his pickup truck up and down the street and honking his horn with a Christmas tree in it. That's how it started. Now last year we had 76 floats, so it's actually turned into a pretty big event. Thousands of people come down there. Our Sheriff Scott will lead the parade as he does every year. And so it's a good time. Come down, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of Christmas stuff, and all the shops are open, a lot of wine, a lot of alcohol sales. It's a good time, so come on down.
What date was that again?
That's this Saturday.
Oh, this Saturday.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Cleveland.
I'd like to welcome Claire to the county council staff, and so welcome, Claire. And I would like to say that I'm going to miss Carol, okay? But I'm looking forward to postcards from all the cool places her and her husband are going to travel in her retirement. There you go.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
So I would tell you that if you can't make it out for your parade on Saturday, or if you want to just come out and run early, the Greater St. Charles Chamber of Commerce is having the Santa Dash on Saturday morning. So come on out, dress up as your favorite Santa, get your 5K in, your pancake sausage and free beer, and then head on out to enjoy the parade with the sheriff. Always a good time. We got stuff going on everywhere, man. I'm telling you.
Anybody else? Nobody else? Can I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.